So, welcome to PQ Interop. The goal of this call series is to serve as a touch point for researchers and client devs during the iterative process of developing, deploying, testing, and improving a series of DevNets focused on aggregating post-quantum signatures. This breakout room supports the longer-term lean consensus vision. So, let's dive in. We had a call yesterday talking about lean specs and just trying to get some best practices from people. Want to thank Felipe, who's on the call, and we met with them and some of the people from Steel and Protocol Security. Sam and Dan were also there. Any, I don't know, any high-level takeaways from any of the client devs or researchers that were on that call in terms of like state of play moving forward? I know that there was some conversation about trying to get, I believe, the types for the SSZ reformatted. And it sounded like maybe that was one dependency that Sam was going to work on. And then another one was, I believe, related to 3SF. I don't know, Gadgender, did you have any key takeaways, or Thomas? I know that you're going to have identified yourself as being kind of heavily involved in specifications.
Yep, I can add a few bits. Yeah, so from yesterday's call, so the main thing, the main takeaway is that we will continue with the Markdown specs. And while we also more and more integrate Python directly, and for that, O need a list implementation for SSD types, which I'm not sure who is basically taking that up. And with regard to the spec for DevNet 0, we are already working on it, and we can basically discuss it today. With regard to 3SF Mini, basically I will, so our current types, the current PR that O has proposed already has 3SF Mini types in it. And what I will follow up with is basically the state transition function to handle 3SF, as well as to do processing the header so that we have parent-child linkages as well. So so by end of this week, I will be able to do this PR. But as such, Zeem in particular has already most of the stuff, and then I'm not sure how much time Reem will take for that. So for libp2p part, there are a few things again on that lean spec PR by O. It's by O, and once we basically sort of finalize things over there, we can also start to work on Interop on Gossip Sub. Gossip Sub, we are taking version 1 because we don't require any peer scoring as of now, as noted in the PR itself. Apart from that, I think with regard to Genesis generation, so there have been a lot many PRs by PK, and thanks to him. So we already know basically which parts to touch now. And we have some insight into what we need to do, even though those PRs will need to be redone because the specs have not been finalized. But we will basically, once we finalize the spec, we'll basically propagate those changes to PK's PR. So with that regard, I think we will fast cover up once we finalize the DevNet 0 specs. Another thing that I think we wanted to figure out was we want someone who wants to take the responsibility for doing Python specs for the Steel kind of integration. And I think we want someone dedicated over there. So apart from Toma being the responsible party, because Toma volunteered to be the responsible party for specs overall. But yeah, if we basically close all these people and responsibilities, I think we will be good.
Great. Yeah, as you were talking, I pulled up just a project board. I added this morning to the Lean Ethereum GitHub org. So I try to take the readiness checklist that we arrived at last week, and then also the conversation from the specification meeting yesterday, and just try to enumerate like all of these little items that have been coming up. It would be great to get some of the eyes of some of the more technically proficient people and the people that are going to be contributing to this on this project board. I'm happy to add anyone to the org so that you can comment on it and we can assign these to people and start putting dates to these things, and laying out what these dependencies are so that we have like a high level understanding of where we are in the overall scheme of things. For spec CR, I think GitHub project can pull from multiple repos. I'd like to suggest we include the actual PRs. Yeah, so within the description of these items, sorry, I'll share the link to this project board. You'll see the actual PRs. Yeah, I'm trying to pull together like issues, parent child, like sub issues, and trying to make this as kind of reflect the order of operations in which things need to be done. Give us some like understand the scope of work that we're working on. That return. Oh, I might need to make it public. Sorry about that. So yeah, I'll make it public after the call. I'm happy to share this while we talk if it's helpful. But yeah, any thoughts on just like overall using an artifact like this to drive things forward?
Yeah, I think this is a great board. And in the last Zoom call, basically Ladislas, we had discussion with Ladislas, and he was suggesting that maybe we also prioritize this or timeline this so that we can have a good idea of what are the next steps for implementation and how they will unfold. Aim is to have signature DevNet by beginning of October. So I think with that regard, we'll basically work out the timelines and try to push and see how we can basically crunch this out.
Excellent.
Also, I think that I need to take a closer look, Will, at what you just shared with different items to like give priority to some of them. For example, I think that the SSE typing system will unlock further specification stuff. So I need to take a look to assign priority and move forward on the spec. Yeah.
Sounds good. I'll share it again. It's public now.
I think just to mention on that, I don't think Ream and Zeem teams are basically blocked on Python SSD types, because we are just coding it on independently as well. But what we will be requiring, and where this will become sort of blocker, is when we'll be requiring spec test, because before going into Interop, we would basically want to pass the spec test, how we do that on the Beacon clients. And I think that is where basically we'll basically start needing Python generated spec test, and so Python generated containers as well.
And Maybe a quick update on the spec. So I had a little chat with Justin Traglia, um, after the call yesterday, and we are trying to figure it out. So Justin suggested I should use the remerkalized library for now as a workaround, with a note that it's no longer maintained. But at least I think it works. I think it works in my initial setup, so I think I'll go ahead with that. And then the question about how to take those types into a more maintainable repo, then that's where I would love like the Steel team to at least like advise how to work with that. But I guess for now, with the remerkalized library, I think I can work with the like coming up with the Python specs initially.
Amazing. Oh, so one of the things I think that came out from yesterday's call and was not addressed yesterday was uh, who is the person who will basically take ownership for the Python code, and I think we didn't have an answer yesterday. So throwing out to the bigger firm over here.
Yeah, I think I will take responsibility for like most of the Python code. We will start from there, and then we will check if we need further adjustment or like further expertise or stuff. But yeah, let's just start from there.
Excellent.
Yeah, Thomas, let me know if this becomes too much of a burden. My original thinking many months ago was to hire someone who would be dedicated to maintaining and evolving the Python specs. And I guess that's still an option on the table if it's too much of a burden.
Yeah, I will check. For now, it will be like, let us say, small items, so I can manage this. Let us see when it grows, what we need, and if we need further adjustment.
Maybe one quick question on the container. I think like the only big question left is around the signature. Initially put down as bytes 32, but just for like ease of use. But I guess there's been a few comments, I think, from Partha, and also I think Gajinder is also, you want to expand that into like more proper signature type as well. So I guess like one thing for me is, do we want to actually mimic the actual PQ signature type right now, while we are while we want to test the fork choice stuff first, right? Do we want to include it right now, or is that something we want to keep it to just like byte 32, just to make sure that the fork choice interop works first, and then for the next iteration when we have PQ sig, then we add that in. I'm yeah, and don't have a strong opinion there. I think both way works, but I guess like the byte 32 would maybe help with confirming the fork choice interop easier, I guess.
I mean, I don't see size having any basically, any factor in making interop easy or difficult. It just, once you get the block message and you deserialize it, you will basically get the data as per your properties, right? So I don't basically see an issue, but what I would, the reason I was pushing for was, we as that for these things was that they help build clarity around what we are trying to do, as well as freezing the parameters, for example. So even though for bytes 32 is fine, but for example, I was thinking was that maybe we have variable signature bytes, which itself could be SSD serialized bytes. So basically we can have, we don't really need to uh, uh, finalize any format as of now. But we say that, okay, we will also leave the scope for changing the signature maybe at a later point, and say that, okay, we'll keep 4,000 bytes for the signature and variable bytes for the signature. And basically signature will be SSZ materialized, SSZ serialized signature over there. So in that sense, basically, if the signature, if we basically have a signature container, which is of some particular type today, and it changes tomorrow, then our overall block structure and mechanism won't really change that much. So that was my thinking, so that basically, we can freeze the format soon and we can have more visibility, as well as people who are working on the signature stuff, they also get a head start.
Okay, sounds good. So I guess it comes down to just pick a size that we want to go with, right? For now.
We can basically keep it a variable list, max 4,000 bytes.
Yeah, I don't have any objections there.
So, I mean, Justin, maybe, or Thomas, your input here would be nice, because do we think that the signatures might change, the parameterization or the signature scheme might change? In that case, basically, variable byte size signature we can go with, or we can otherwise fix the signature and just go with the fixed bytes.
I think that maybe Justin can add like further comment on that, but I think that in the short, medium term, this will not change that much. The scheme that we have right now with the hash-based XMSS, the last iteration we have with the top-level encoding things seems really, really good. And for now, we don't have like a better alternative. The set of parameters should maybe change, but I'm not sure about this, because like the one that we tested seems to be really, really good. The one that I pushed as a PR on the lean spec repo. But in the long run, I don't know, because we have also like other possible candidates, like we have teams working on Falcon, for example, just to give an example. But for now, we are not considering switching over this. But of course, we cannot predict the 2 or 3 years future with high certainty. So I would say short, medium term, it will not change. Long run, we would say we will change. Need to be checked. Maybe Justin, you want to add further comment on this?
Yeah, so I guess there's two types of signatures, right? There's the leaf signatures, which are the XMSS, and those I believe are expected to be constant size. So we can have a parameter which is just a number of bytes, and it's possible there will be like very small modifications, in which case we can just change the constant, the parameter. On the aggregatable aggregate signature, which is a snark proof, this is actually not constant size unless we do more work to make it constant size. And so here I think the most reasonable thing to do is just to make it variable size with a max, and then we can go ahead and compute the worst case size and have that as a parameter as well.
So basically what we can then do is that the block signature, we can go with a fixed size for now, and maybe take, I think it's 3 kilobytes or something with the current parameters. So maybe we can just use that number for now in the block signature.
Yes.
I dropped a note in the chat last week. I seem to remember an open discussion about the key distribution strategy. There was a debate over whether or not these should be pre-generated and stored versus generated on demand. I'm just curious if that conversation had sort of reached a consensus.
I think we can basically, Mercy has a very good document on that she can present. And
Oh, okay.
then, yeah, we can discuss about that.
Cool. Mercy, you want to walk us through this? If you're speaking, you're muted.
Oh, sorry. Good afternoon.
Okay.
Okay. So I did a little benchmark on, okay, I did one for each single key generation and then a batch key generation. And the link I shared for the HackMD is the result. Although there's kind of like inconsistencies, so I'm not really sure how to go about it. Yeah.
So one thing that I don't completely understand is you mentioned 4.2 keys per minute sustained. My impression was that we would be generating about 1 hour's worth of keys every second, or kind of that kind of order of magnitude. So, hundreds of thousands of keys per second. What does the 4.2 keys per minute refer to?
You may be muted again, Mercy, if you're responding.
It looks like she disconnected.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
But yeah, like generally speaking, we should be able to generate keys much, much faster than we consume them. And so I think from my perspective, the bottleneck for just-in-time key generation is not performance, it's standardization. So Benedict kind of highlighted a couple of things. The first one is that it hasn't been implemented in the Rust library. But secondly, there's also no clear single way of doing it. There's a design space. So maybe what needs to happen is that we sit down and agree on some sort of a standard, some sort of API for what is reasonable. I'm happy to suggest something, but it's also something that we could discuss during the Cambridge workshop if it needs more polishing. My hope is that it's a fairly small amount of work. And the fact that it hasn't been implemented in the Rust library shouldn't be a blocker. Basically, my intuition is that if we have this hashed layer of the Merkle tree, so we only have the top half, which only is of size square root in terms of total storage, we should be able to store it in, I don't know, off the top of my head, like roughly, let's say 100 kilobytes. And then the key generation should be extremely fast. So, a few minutes, maybe even a few seconds before you need to sign, you can just in time regenerate the whole portion for the slots that you're about to sign. And hopefully the amount of time that's used for key generation is much shorter than the amount of time that you start regenerating the keys ahead of your first slot. So Yeah, I guess it's just a matter of picking a few parameters and standardizing them and writing an API for it.
I think from the discussion we've had with Benedict, it's also a question of when do we like need this type of optimization. I think the whole discussion was picked up until we realized, okay, for DevNet 0, like how much keys do we have to generate on a local DevNet environment? So that was so the initial bottleneck was like disk and RAM in like in this very early exploration phase, and then later on, okay, how much disk space? Like the more we get into like second, third, fourth iterations, this trick, as you mentioned, should be applied and optimized for. So, like my hunch currently is that it's worth an optimization to further explore and find right parameters for, but I guess not necessarily as we sprint to DevNet 0.
Right.
Mercy, I don't know if there's anything that you wanted to add. I know that you sort of had some network connection issues.
Yeah, sorry. I wanted to answer the question Justin asked. So the 4.2 keys is that I generated a batch of 10 keys with lifetime of 2/11, and then the total time for batch was 144 seconds. Then the average time per keys was 14.42 seconds, I guess. Then to find out how many keys that fit in a minute would be 60 seconds divided by 14.42 seconds per key, which is 4.16 keys, which now rounded up to 4.12 keys per minute.
I guess there's something wrong with the benchmark because it seems like the numbers are off by several orders of magnitude. And Jun is saying in the chat that maybe you're running it with the dev profile. Maybe you're also running it on just one thread as opposed to multiple threads. I don't know.
So I think if you modify the original repo #sig, it will be great if you can share your repository as a GitHub, because so that we can see how the optimizations is happened in running your benchmark.
So I didn't get that last part.
June, could you repeat that last part?
Sorry. What did you say?
I think the part about sharing the GitHub so it could be replicated.
Yeah. So I think there are some changes in the repository hash signature. So I think so. I'm just guessing from the screenshots you posted on the HackMD, but it will be much better if we can see some modification in code.
Okay, yeah, I will share the link, but if there was a recent push on the #sync repo, I wasn't aware of it, so I was just making use of the one I had locally.
Okay.
Great. Were there any other items that people wanted to go over? I know that we received some of the, I don't know, guys, maybe you touched on it earlier, but the work from PK 910 late last week. I don't know if anyone wants to review that or say anything more about that. Oh, I know you've got a couple of PRs in flight in the specs repo. I don't know if there's anything that you want to call attention to there.
Just something just to finish about like the benchmark. I think that from the screenshot that I can see in the AKMD, I think that you run the cargo run without CPU native. Like if you I will share in the chat the comment, but I think that this slow down a lot because otherwise there is no parallelization flag, so that when you run the repo, it's automatically doing multi-threading and no single threading. But I think that you should do that instead of doing simply cargo run to be tested and to be defined offline, but just a hint.
And I also noticed the Mercy, I think you're running on a browser IDE or something, so maybe the hardware that you're running
Yeah,
on is probably very limited.
yeah, I'm using Gitpod. I can't really run it on my laptop per se.
Yeah, so or maybe at least like if you could figure out like what's the hardware specs of the instance that you're running on, then that's probably useful too.
Mm,
Okay. Anything else? All right. I think that
Oh,
might
one thing,
go ahead.
maybe worth discussing the timeline. I think we originally mentioned about like end of August, but I think like probably we can I'm not so sure. I need to ask the team whether we're comfortable with like having all the specs implemented by end of this month, and maybe like we could start our own like local network or single client network maybe sometime in early September. So maybe like the like refined target for a interop definite without PQSig, just the fork choice stuff. Maybe mid September, I guess. I'm not so sure.
Yeah, Zeem would be okay with the timeline.
And so if the goal is to have that up by September 9th, September 15th, whatever it is, and you want to have that live for 10 days, are we thinking that before the get together in early October that there would be time for improvements to like a DevNet 1, or that how do we want to consider that get together and the timing of this?
Maybe we do DevNet 1 in the Interop.
Okay. Sounds good. Yeah, feel free to DM me if you want access to the project board that I created. You might need to get added to the repo to be able to edit and modify it, add issues. But I don't know. I think it would be a useful tool. Happy to maintain it. But yeah, I'll just need some feedback in order to get it kind of validated from everyone's point of view, and know that we're starting from a good starting point that people agree upon. Great. Well, have a nice rest of your day, everyone.
Thanks, Will.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.